It's my favorite time of week. And I'm going to also speak with Brian White this morning.
Because
And
I was just sure you'd be a fan of Hump Day.
I'm, I'm a fan of everything, Brian. You know me. I like you and Hump Day.
Yeah, that's Wednesdays
Oh, that's
because you're
what.
over the hump.
Oh, Hump Day. Yes. Oh, yeah, Hump Day. Yeah, I know about Hump Day. Yes, I learned about that when I was a wee child. Okay, Brian, I'm really up in arms today. I'm quite overexcited. I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. I've been a sales manager almost my entire life. That's how I started out in life, was a sales manager. At age 20, what was that? 24, I went to work for this importer, and that was my titles, sales and marketing manager. And I'm looking at Tesla right now, and I'm saying to myself, they have excess capacity. And everybody seems to think they keep lowering the number for the year. 2 million, 2,000,001, 1.9. Who saw somebody the other day had 1.97? Anemic. And yet
Mhm.
this capacity down in Austin, this capacity in Berlin. So help me out here, Brian. Can we talk about the absolute minimum, and then why can't it be 2.6 or 2.7? Because that's what I'd like to talk about this morning. So
You got it.
absolute minimums. Let's start with Fremont. What's the absolute minimum that you could imagine in your massive brain?
Between 4 and 450 would be the theoretical minimum I could understand. And the only reason it would be less than, a good, 4 or 500 at all would be if there's a problem ramping the new Model 3,
Which there
and
apparently is.
which there apparently is. So that's a little bit of softness there, but it's not much softness. And this should come off the line slightly quicker than the old one, not substantially quicker. We had hoped to see giga castings in use. We
Yeah,
now know that not only that they're not, but why they're not. And
right,
it's because tooling up for that would carry a huge cost with it without adding a commensurate gain in efficiency.
right.
So the X line in Fremont is going strong. Uh, they could they could take that line down in favor of lines in Texas. That would create some gap there in capacity, but not necessarily in output. And we saw last year just shy of 2 million without that, without any downtime and without that fully used capacity. So I don't think they would take that line down unless they had more than enough to make up for it in Texas. The real hassle would be changing the logistics over to a completely different geographical location. You need different truckers, different shippers, different everything to make that happen. They could do that. So Fremont, room for a little bit of softness, not a lot.
Okay, so are you saying then that it could be slightly less than last year in your worst case analysis?
Yes, but also in the real analysis, in the final analysis, because we know that there was downtime in the changeover to Model 3 of the new design.
Right. So it could be that we could lose a little bit in the first quarter. We could make it up because of the strength of the Model 3, apparently, in terms of the quality of the product. So, all right.
And not just that, let me add to that that I think Model 3 could have run faster last year. I don't think it was at full capacity. And I
Oh,
think this model has sufficient demand that it could absolutely run higher numbers, Q2 through 4, than it did last year.
all right. So let's talk about in negative minus plus. So minus 50,000. Could it be as low as negative 50,000 over last year?
It could,
Okay.
could.
What
I
about, and what about,
much more than that, I would struggle to understand.
okay. And then upward, what would be the maximum you could imagine additional units out of Fremont?
I'd say again 50.
50,000. So plus or minus 50 compared to last year.
Yes.
All right, let's shift now all the way to Shanghai because it's the other plant that's running near capacity. So again, they were what, around 900,000? I'm
Yeah, 900 to a million, we're not sure.
yeah, okay. And so imagining plus or minus there? I mean, what would hurt them in Shanghai?
So there doesn't appear to be any possible line issues. There's no model changeovers. There's, they added a few features from the Model 3 refresh to the Y, but nothing that took any real time to implement. Great. So and that simplifies the parts cataloging and deliveries in that regard. So that is fine. So not production. That's not the issue. The only issue would be demand. Is it really soft? And we've seen some really loud people really sure that the Shanghai story is over, but time after time they're wrong. Maybe of the last 50 predictions, this is the prediction they're right on. But then, of course, then we get the next week's numbers and they're very strong again. So there was a big misunderstanding about year over year falling sales and production, while ignoring that Lunar New Year fell in February this year instead of January last year. It's a floating holiday, guys.
Yes.
So, and the older I get, the more I find my birthday is a floating holiday. It's kind of around the end of May, but sometimes it's in July. But science will solve that as well. So I think the maximum downside in Shanghai is like 5%. So again, 50,000. Because even when there's softness in a market, there are always new markets to enter. And they won't enter a market with 1 or 2 units. They go big. Well, Korea only sold 1 car in January. Right. And the year before and the year before that, what was it? 1 or 2 each time. They were stragglers from the December shipping.
Interesting.
So that softness is dreadfully overstated.
We have a lot of new markets, not just brand new. I think they just opened in Laos. They just opened in Chile. So those are absolutely brand new with nothing happening yet. But you also have markets like Australia, where the year over year could be substantially higher. You have Japan, which they barely are touching Japan. I don't know, do they ship out of China into Japan, or does that come out of US stock or Berlin?
Oh, I don't see why Japan wouldn't come out of China. I think it's Taiwan that takes delivery from other factories, but
all right. So anyway, it looks to me like, so you're saying 50,000 on the downside, upside potential
100 to 200. They are there is no limit to how much additional ounces of efficiency and production speed they can get. And they are very good at it. I'd say a realistic upside would be 10%, about 100.
About 100,000. Okay. All right. Now let's switch over to Austin. Austin was a very big disappointment to me last year. I think under 200,000 vehicles. So downside there, I'm trying to figure out a downside there.
So the only downside I see for Austin, because we'll get to the upside, but the only downside I could see is continued lack of demand growth for the Model Y. Model Y is the best selling car. Once you're already the best selling car, you start running out of headroom. When Wrigley's was the #1 gum in America, they didn't have room to expand their market unless they convinced new people to chew gum. And by the way, gum sales are down like 35%. People don't chew gum anymore. They've got a phone to occupy their mind instead of having to seek out something else.
That could also be an aging population problem, because it's hard to gum your gum.
Yes, but there were always old people. So there are in Texas, production wise, there is no downside. The Cybertruck appears to be ramping just fine. Model Y has excess capacity, as you noted. So the only softness out of Texas would be market-wide softness. And there are people out there who predict we're about to go into a recession, but we'll have a separate discussion about that.
So recession, no recession, whatever, but there is upside potential, and the upside potential then would be something on the order of 250,000, right? 300.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. If, let's say, rates cut drastically tomorrow,
right,
and cars just became affordable, then yes, they could spool that up within a few months to drastically increase production. But even if they don't, Cybertruck production continues to ramp. As you know from getting your invitation to configure, despite your high reservation number, they are going all the way through the list of people willing to pay for the Foundation series
Art.
to get to maximize that revenue. And in doing so, it means I believe they're not losing money on a per unit basis.
Yeah.
I know they said the line won't be profitable until X number of vehicles, but that's because they're accounting for the entire line, all of it. And that doesn't mean they're losing money on a per unit basis. And at 100, 120 each, that's real money. And that highly motivates them to keep cranking them out as quick as they can and getting the production dialed in, which it appears they are doing in a reasonable fashion.
All right. So then we go over to Berlin, and Berlin came in, I think, around 250. I don't remember the exact number, but in that
They didn't give us exact numbers.
Right. Okay. So we got around 250 there, and we again have capacity for at least 350, but I thought it was supposed to be 500.
If the existing capacity is under 450, I'd be very surprised. So the downside in Berlin, again, would just be softness in the European market. They don't export those beyond the continent that I'm aware of. So there would be, maybe they do some to
Mediterranean,
yeah,
Northern Africa. Yeah.
Maybe Northern Africa is as far as those make it, but not big numbers in those regards. But again, you've got new markets you could open up.
Right.
And I assume they are doing that at whatever pace is reasonable and prudent. That is something they're definitely always looking to do.
They opened Turkey last year, I think, didn't they? I think they opened.
I don't remember if they did. I know Elon had some talks with officials from Turkey,
right.
But yeah, the softness for Berlin would be entirely market related. Right. And again, once you're already number one, and I've seen all kinds, so much doom and gloom, Randy. Didn't you know the story's over in Europe? And then you get the new batch of numbers, and you're like, well, actually, it's the number one selling model of its kind. So
number one BEV in Germany and number one SUV in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah. So that the softness we would see, we did have a 2-week shutdown due to the canal being impassable. And now we're on a much longer shutdown than I expected for the eco-terrorists blowing up the power supply for the entire area. Bunch of absolute nut jobs there. You know, report came out yesterday in that region. Giga Berlin uses half as much water as the nearby asparagus farm.
I know. I saw that.
You're picking the wrong targets, my friends.
So they need to get rid of asparagus, for crying out loud. And I thought it was cows. It turns out it's asparagus. Okay, so
everything needs water.
Everything needs water. So we have Berlin then actually I've heard some reports that it might open yesterday, Monday. So there was some chance that it was going to open on Monday, which is it's not quite yesterday yet, but it will be yesterday soon.
Depends when this goes out.
Okay, so anyways, they're 9 hours ahead, or 9 hours, I think. So yeah, so it's only 7 o'clock there or something as we do this. Okay, so if we add all this up, it sounds to me like you said 50,000 here, 50,000 there. Maybe
we didn't say how soft Berlin could be in numbers.
Right. Oh yes,
I think the softest I could see Berlin being is flat. And for the upside, again, 50 to 100.
Okay. All right. So we got Fremont, maximum 50. We've got Austin, flat. No chances going down.
Well, no chances going down for sure.
Mm-hmm. Shanghai, maybe down 50. And Berlin, 0. So that 100,000 would be roughly made up by Cybertruck. So in a horror case, unimaginable case, we might end up flat for the year. Okay.
That is my truly worst case.
And that was at it everybody
from now.
Yeah. Okay. So then on the other side, we could be up 250 here, 250 there, 100 here, 100 there. We could be up 600,000 or something to 2.4 million in a kind of a, makeable, doable. This is the number I've commonly talked about is 2.4 million. I know that was Larry's number for a while. I don't think he's still at 2.4. He actually thought that was the number that would happen. Now let's talk about the reason. Then this is why I'm in such a crazy mood this morning about the sales and marketing department. In my companies, if I got a number, if somebody came to me and said, we're only going to increase, that we might be flat and that we might only increase by 10% when we're used to increasing by 40% per year, 50% per year, I would have a meeting. And it wouldn't be a all hands on deck meeting. It would be a meeting that would include a guillotine in the middle of the room, a chopping block, a firing squad, a labor cutback facility. Anyway, why in the world would Elon Musk allow his teams to come to him with such a number?
So let's say it's your company, Randy. I'm the head of numbers, and I've got some news. It's a range. It's a range of numbers. The worst case scenario is just as good as last year, except with margins likely improving because costs of goods sold are still improving. And on the upside, we're only looking at 10-20%. Why would you not be furious? Because you knew we needed more factories and they haven't been built yet. We need more models. We haven't released them yet.
Is that what the sales team is telling me?
That's it. When the big haters show up and say, "Oh, 50% year over year," I guess he's not a time traveler after all. I say you are not permitted to speak on topics of time dilation, but also that until the new models come out, until the new factories are built, that there's only so much headroom in the market for the 3 and Y, and we may have found it already. And if we have, improving by more than 10-20% is an unreasonable ask without major outside forces impacting the affordability for consumers. Right. So yeah.
You sound like my sales. I've had those salesmen in front of me. They've come in and, oh, well, you got the wrong product, and the market, and people aren't buying right now. It's a recession. And I'm like, pull that guillotine a little closer over here. Bring the chopping block a little closer to where I can grab the whatever it is that you use in a chopping block. No, I don't. I'm not. If I'm Elon Musk, I shouldn't be buying any of those arguments. I have the capacity. I'm 100% sure I can get 250 more out of Austin. I can get 250 more out of Berlin. I can get 150 more out of Shanghai. I want to sell those 700,000, 50,000 out of Fremont. I want to sell those 700,000 cars this year, guys. So tell me how you're not going to do this.
It sounds like we need a Toyota-thon. Everything must go. Many cars at or below Kelley Blue Book. Wait, did you say at or many at? So you're selling a lot of cars at the Toyota-thon over Blue Book? Lordy, I'm glad you have to be honest in your ads because I know you're going to lie when I get there. What do you do? Do you want to cut prices another $10,000 a car?
I'm going to say to my salespeople, find me not just new markets like Chile or Laos or Australia. I want to sell way more cars in Japan. I want to sell way more cars in Iowa. I want to sell way more cars in Tennessee. I want to sell way more cars in Canada. I want to sell even more cars in California, even though they're at 22, 23%. But what's 22, 23? Look what I'm selling in the Netherlands. Let's get it.
I want to sell more fleet vehicles.
I want to sell more fleet vehicles. I want to get back in the door at Hertz. I want to go back to Hertz and give them a deal they cannot refuse. I want to protect them on downward pressures on the future purchases that they will not be able to lose more than a certain amount. He has that deal with his suppliers on lithium and on batteries and on other commodities. They make that deal. I've made those deals. with my customers. No, we're in an odd situation right here. Okay, I'll protect you. We'll make sure that there's a way that you can make it up if things get really, really weird again. I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm going out there with all guns, all guns charging. Okay, and then there's advertising. Where's my advertising? I've hired you guys. Okay, we need more. If we're not going to sell those 500,000, 600, 700,000 cars that I can make, I got the capacity. Everybody loves the cars. Then what do I need? Advertising department. How much money do you want? Can I throw $1 billion at it? I mean, I got 30 in the bank.
Boy, $1 billion would be, I think, the wrong number. But I can see the argument being correct that the number spent today is also the wrong number. It's much too low. There is a lot of opportunity. I get that what he's been trying to do, what the advertising department appears to be doing, is looking to only run the perfect, most optimized ads. And one thing we learned at the bank was we're at the annual meeting for all the loan officers, and they were showing our default rate was something like 0.5%, and everyone cheered. And the CEO said, that number is the wrong number. It's too low. It means we're not taking enough risks. We're not making enough loans. If none of our loans go bad, that means we're only taking A plus plus, and we need to get down into A and B minus. We're still a premium lender. We're still an actual bank, but it means we should have made more loans than we did.
I just moved the chopping block a little further away, Brian. You're doing better. I used to say the same thing to my son when he was playing basketball. I'd say, you need to have 5 fouls at the end of the game. I mean, it's not you. You need to have 5 fouls on you at the end of the game.
Oh.
Just, I don't want you coming back with only 1 foul. And so, yeah, same idea. So I love it, Brian. So yeah, more risky, a little more risk on the advertising side, testing things at a little more aggressive level if you're not selling out. Right?
Well, it's like in basketball. If you're not going to be aggressive, be aggressive, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
No, it's true though. If you're not, if you never fail, you didn't really take any risks.
Oh, that sounds like something Elon Musk would say. Fail fast forward. Fail fast forward. Oh yeah. So,
That's also my jogging philosophy.
is it? So, but I don't. I again, I wrote the book. All the things that I think Elon's wonderful at, and he himself is a talented salesman. But sometimes the best. No, almost always the best salesman is not a great sales manager. I have found this throughout my career. I've written about this. You take your best salesman and turn him into a sales manager, you lose twice because you get a lousy sales manager and you lost your best salesman. So there might need to be a hire here of a world-class sales and marketing guy. This may be a missing piece in the puzzle. You always got to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. And if he's not a good sales manager, get somebody in there who is world class.
Right. I've worked for that sales manager. He was a fantastic salesman and the worst manager I've ever had. He yeah, saw me just studying the price book, and he said, "Why aren't you working?" I said, what? I said, when you give me a job to cost out, no one is faster than me and no one is more accurate than me. And the reason is because I sit here studying the book, because the book was 2 feet thick. And if this doesn't look like work to you, buddy, I have no idea what to do. I guess, did you want me to work slower? That's not what I'm saying. You know what I mean. I do know what you mean. Do you?
Yeah. Well,
I didn't
okay.
stay there long.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I think we've made the point. I hope we've made the point. Elon, are you listening? I think you're absolutely mind-boggling on so many levels, on 16 different things in the Elon Musk method we talked about, where you are world class, but maybe sales manager isn't one of them. So there's got to be some folks out there. I don't know. Brett Adcock seems like a really good sales manager. Maybe even a guy to get for Tesla. Anyway, he's probably not available. But yeah, Brian, any last thoughts? I think Elon will figure it out. I don't think he's going to like the idea of having that excess capacity much longer. And I think he's also come to the conclusion that lowering prices more is not really going to get us there. What do you think?
I think all of that's correct. I'm sure he's very frustrated, but I just look at it as, even if nothing happens on these fronts, as soon as the new model is out and ramping, it's going to be a whole new step change for the company, for production, for deliveries, for all of it.
All right. Well, as always, it is a great pleasure to have you on board to act as a foil, and to act as a champion, to ask as a challenger. To how many things?
A voice of reason.
Oh, that. Oh, yeah.
Rest assured, Randy, the pleasure's all yours.
And so I'm sure we'll see you again shortly, even maybe in minutes, although it'll take the folks out there a day to see you again, but they can probably hang in there.
I
Ryan,
think tomorrow's show is going to be insane because you've already shared the notes, and it is a big one and a good one.
biggie. And then, of course, they should also follow you on Future Aza.
Yes, Future Oz,
Yeah, I
it
got it right the
is.
first time that time. Future Aza.
Yes.
And they should follow you. That would be on Twitter. That would be on YouTube.
YouTube.
Which I will apparently maybe be, if I haven't insulted him too much today, I think I'll be on his show at least once or twice this week. And then I think you're also on some Patreon thing or something. Is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you switch that to Future Aza also?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Cool. All
Yep,
right.
just that.
Follow him everywhere. Hey, and it's been great talking to you all.